All right, we're about to get into one of the most personal questions in all of science. It's a story that starts with a really simple, elegant theory, but then takes a wild turn with some very messy data and leaves us with a real puzzle about what it means to live a long, healthy life. So let's just cut right to the chase. Could your sex life actually hold a clue to how long you're going to live? For decades, scientists were pretty sure the answer was yes, and it all circled back to one single, powerful idea. So, this first piece of the puzzle is a theory that's been a huge deal in the science of aging for over 50 years. And you know what? On the surface, it makes perfect sense. The whole idea really just boils down to how we spend our energy. Think of your body as having a limited budget. It can either spend that energy building new things, like having children, or it can spend it on keeping what it's already got in good shape, self-repair. The official name for this is the disposable soma theory. And soma is just a fancy word for your body. The theory basically says that from an evolutionary point of view, your body is kind of disposable. Its main job isn't to live forever, it's to stick around just long enough to pass on your genes. And this is the core trade-off right here. Any energy your body invests in making offspring is energy it can't invest in crucial maintenance work, like fixing damaged DNA or keeping your cells healthy. It's a classic zero-sum game. So the prediction that comes out of this is crystal clear. The more kids you have, the more energy you've diverted away from self-repair, which should mean you live a shorter life. A simple, elegant theory. But what actually happened when scientists took this idea out into the real world? And this is where our neat and tidy story gets really, really messy. Because when researchers went looking for this clear-cut trade-off in actual human populations, what they found was, well, it was a total surprise. Yeah, elusive is putting it gently. As researcher Joshua Middledorf says here, study after study just failed to find this straightforward cost of having children. The data simply was not cooperating with the theory. I mean, just look at the disconnect. The theory predicts a clear downside. But when scientists studied real people, from Amish communities to people in rural Finland, they either found no link at all, or, and this is the really weird part, they found the complete opposite. Sometimes having more kids was linked to a longer life. So what gives? In the middle of all this confusing data, one massive study came out, published in the super prestigious journal Nature, and it claimed to have finally found the proof. It looked like it had validated the entire theory in humans. This study dug through 800 years of records on British aristocrats and concluded that, yep, the trade-off was real. Women with more children tended to live shorter lives. For years, this was the study everyone pointed to. But there was a problem, a big one, hidden deep inside the statistics. The entire conclusion, the finding that shaped the scientific consensus for years and years, it all boiled down to the lives of just 5 people. That's not a typo. The whole finding was being skewed by just 5 women. They all had these huge families, and crucially, were all born before 1700, a time when life expectancy was way lower for everyone. And get this, when you remove just those 5 outliers from the data of nearly 3,000 people, the whole effect just vanishes. Gone. So the big takeaway here is that simply counting the number of children someone has just doesn't seem to work. This forced researchers to pivot, to ask a totally different, more nuanced question. If it's not about the number of kids, what else about our sex lives could be tied to how long we live? So the focus shifted. Instead of looking at the outcome of sex, babies, they started looking at the behaviors and feelings around it, specifically sexual desire and sexual activity. And this is where the modern data starts painting a much more interesting picture. Take this huge study from Japan in 2022. Researchers looked at almost 21,000 people over the age of 40. They didn't ask how many kids they had. They just asked them about their level of sexual interest. And the results were pretty shocking. They found a specific number that seemed to directly link sexual interest to the risk of dying. This is a really powerful number. Even after they accounted for things like age, diabetes, and smoking, men who reported a lack of sexual interest were almost 70% more likely to die from any cause during the study period. It really suggests that desire itself might be a kind of vital sign for our overall health. Okay, so that's interest. But what about actual activity?
another whole line of research started looking not just at lifespan, but at the quality of that life, specifically at our brain health as we get older. And the connection was clear as day. One study found that older adults who had more frequent sexual activity did significantly better on a whole range of cognitive tests. We're talking about specific skills like verbal fluency, how fast you can come up with words, and even visual spatial skills, like being able to draw a complex shape from memory. So, where does all of this leave us? We've gone from this nice, simple theory about having kids to a much, much more complicated picture that involves our desire, our activity, and our overall health. I think we can say with a lot of confidence that the old theory, that more children equals a shorter life, it just doesn't tell the whole human story. The connection between our sexual lives and our health is obviously not that simple. Now, what we do see is this really consistent link. Higher sexual interest is tied to a lower risk of death, and more sexual activity is tied to a sharper brain. But, and this is a huge but that every scientist has to consider, correlation is not the same thing as causation. And that leads us to the final lingering question. Is having a healthy sex life actually a cause of good aging? Is it actively doing something to make us healthier? Or is it just a consequence of it, a sign that people who are already healthy are the ones who stay sexually active later in life? It's the ultimate chicken or the egg puzzle, right? And the answer could completely change how we think about the connection between our minds, our bodies, and what it truly means to live a long life well lived.